Listen, thank you so much for joining us. This is the first episode of the new normal, and I have chosen for a topic better than before as a potential metaphor before for our pre and post pandemic experience. So better than before is the topic, and we have a couple of little things that we want to go through, a couple of stories or share some stories, but really want to get to the good part at the end. The good part is actually having some questions from you. And so we want you to please ask questions. You can start early and stay late. Either way, we'd enjoy both of those. And we just want to just thank you for making the choice to spend some time with us. But better than before, again, is our subject. And if you would with me do this, would you say this with me? And you can say it to yourself, right? Protect, perfect, and connect. That's what we're going to try to focus on today. That is protect, perfect, and connect. I really excited to have this opportunity to join you today. It's my first time in this kind of setting, and I hope you'll enjoy this as we move along. But I want to start though by maybe just giving some love to our frontline workers. So right where you are, I know it's all muted and all of that kind of stuff, but would you just kind of shake it off, shake it up, shake it up, shake it up, shake it up. Woo! All the frontline workers, everybody who's out there and doing it, we just want to give them a big virtual hug if we could. And I'd like to maybe start in that same place or a similar place at least. There's a story I'm reminded of called The Good Samaritan, and really kind of identifies with who we identifies with our frontline workers and the selfless activities that they have engaged in so that we can, well, one, continue to do all the normal things we do, and then the really complicated things when we do have to go and have medical attention and that kind of thing. So we're really encouraged by all of our frontline workers and the sacrifice they make, and I want to share this little story, maybe as a representation or a thank you to who they are and the sacrifices they make on a daily basis. So it's Martin Luther King's take on the old story, the Good Samaritan. You know the ancient story about the Good Samaritan. The man is dying on the road, and this guy stops to help him, right? Well, really, that seems like a real normal activity. That's what you do. I mean, if man's dying on the road, you stop, right? And Martin Luther King, though, was wondering something different, right? It was a great thing that he stopped and all, but what he wanted to know is that there are some other people that passed by. What made this story significant is that some people did not stop. And so when the Good Samaritan stopped, right, that's why the story became so famous, because, well, everybody else passed by. And not only that, specifically, there was a man who shared Dr. King's, well, occupation. There was a pastor. And you figure somewhere in the job description of a pastor, man dying on the road, you stop. Well, I'm being a little bit facetious, but as it goes on, he really wanted to know the answer to this. And he and his wife, Coretta, actually went to this ancient land, and they walked this road, this same road, and they found that it was a long and winding road. And it was actually the perfect place for an ambush. As a matter of fact, it was surnamed the Bloody Pass. And many malevolent activities took place along this road. And so as he thought about it and he was put into that context, he understood why the other people didn't stop, because the first rule is self-preservation. They were like, if I stop, like, what will happen to me? Because this might not have been, a man who was dying at all. It could have been someone who's faking. It could be a setup, and then they stop, and then they come out and get ambushed. And so all these people said, and you can kind of understand that, right? That, self-preservation. If I stop, what will happen to me? And so then he said, well, I actually now have to go back and turn this. I understand why the other people didn't stop, because that's the first rule of self-preservation. If I stop, what will happen to me? He says, but why did the Good Samaritan stop? And he says, I think the Good Samaritan turned the question around. You see, they said, if I stop, what will happen to me? The Good Samaritan said, if I don't stop, what will happen to them? Well, team, as we begin, our first little topic was protect. And I'm not going to try to talk a long time. I just want to give you a few things, because I'm really excited to have some questions and conversation. That's the important part. But as we start here today, I think, and as we applaud our frontline workers, the other thing we can do is follow the rules. The way we can take a frontline worker off the front line is to actually self-distance, to stay home, to do all the things that we've been called to do, so that we can physically take them off the front lines, right? So we can help those entrepreneurs who have businesses that they're afraid might not go the right way after this, to those who may have lost a job or been laid off, or different things like that. The sooner we do the right thing, and the more often we do the right thing, the sooner that everybody, all those people who are compromised, have a chance to live that full, successful life that I think we all desire to live. And so the very first thing is I want you to tell yourself, if I don't stop, right? If I don't stop going out, if I don't stop following the directions, what will happen to them? Who's them? They're the frontline workers. They're also our most vulnerable, our elderly, those who are grandfathers and grandmothers and great aunts. They are suffering the most. I think I believe almost half of our deaths are coming in that age category. And so we really just want to be sensitive to that. And I should have said half. That was actually, I think, half are from a home, and but the vast majority are of an older age, and those people who have built this opportunity for us that we enjoy in our great country. So I want to very first just say protect, right? I want us to strive to protect those who are most vulnerable, to protect those who are on the front lines, and do the little things. That's that first message. We got to get it in. It is that thing that drives us today. And if I could, I maybe like to transition into perfect. And in doing so, maybe using Martin Luther King, a quote that he has. He said, the concepts of love and power have been contrasted as polar opposites in our society. In order to exercise love, we must resign ourselves of power, and vice versa. He said, but love without power is sentimental and anemic. It's ineffective. He said, power without love is reckless and abusive. Indeed, power at its best is love. The two are synonymous. Well, I want to say that when we talked about perfect or being perfect, that is, it's a mute pursuit. It shall not happen. It won't happen. But the only thing that is perfect is love. You see, love keeps no record of wrongs. Love doesn't mind what happened last year or last month or last night, right? When love says that I love you unconditionally. Unconditionally means no condition. I have my wife next to me. You can't see her just yet here, but she's next to me, and I love her when she's not lovable. Well, more often than that, she loves me when I'm not lovable, right? And that's all a part of it. Love says that there's no condition by which, right, I won't put you first. Love puts the other person before themselves, right? Love says you before me. That's what our frontline workers are doing, and that's what we're really trying to do it as our foundation during this time, trying to be productive and trying to get ahead. We work with young people, taking them from the margins to mainstream or community to career, and in doing so, our young people have several different ways they accomplish that. There's an IT program that is 15 weeks. They finish that program and they go straight into a job. 80% of the young people who go through that program end up with a job making an average salary of $39,000. And that's right after high school graduation. So it's a wonderful program that puts about 500 young people through that program a year. Another program we work with is called Hammerheads. That program puts about 100 young people through that program each year, and the young people actually get a job within 12 weeks. Of course, they don't know the trade in 12 weeks. They have to work towards that. But they start out making $15 to $24 an hour. And two of the young men who became full-fledged journey persons 2 years ago made over $90,000 in their first year. Last year, one of the young people who became full-fledged journey persons made over $100,000 in his first year. This is the kind of transitional opportunity that really does take a young person from being over here and dependent to transforming his situation into being in control of his circumstances. We call that from the margins to mainstream. We also have about 30 young people who are in, actually 35 young people who are in a program that's transitioning to college and university, not transitioning, they're in college and university, and we do this mentorship session for them amongst other things. Well, we brought all of them together right now during the pandemic. So our kids who are in college and university, our kids who are in the trades program, our kids who are in the IT programs. We brought them all together and we talk to them twice a week. We have a little conference call like this and have a little fun. We have a gentleman named Jonathan Hood who coordinates that, and he makes sure that if someone has more need, that he will follow up. And so it's not just about the call. That's really a sort of a global way of assessing things and seeing where our youth are. But he goes on after that and has personal calls. We also have a gentleman who helps them with jobs. That's Kevin, and another gentleman who helps them with financial literacy. All of them are all on the call all together, and then they all are available to help them individually. And so that is what we're trying to do, to put people first as a foundation during this time, and that really is when we say perfect, right? I think love is the only thing that can be perfect, right? We all make mistakes, right? But love covers those, right? When I love my wife perfectly, even when she does the thing I hate the most, I see her just like I did on our wedding day. Of course, she never does that because we've been together for 35 years, married 27 years. I live to serve her. She's absolutely amazing. But there are times we get on each other's nerves. It's true. And hasn't been doing this time. It's been good. We've loved it and enjoyed it, tried to make the most of it. But number one, we want to say protect our frontline workers. Secondly, we want to say let's work towards being better after this is over, right? Perfect, working on loving, forgiving, and all of those kinds of things. And the final thing is to connect. And I'd like you to, if you haven't already done so, get ready for some questions because we're going to start to bridge here. But before I do that, I'd like to just share a final little story with you. There was a drifter who didn't have any place to stay or any food to eat. And this drifter found a farm, and he went up to the house and he says, "Sir, I don't have any place to stay or any food to eat, but I'm really good with my hands. He said I can do just about anything. I know this is a rural area, and I don't have, you know, a way to get back, and so I was just wondering if you would. If you had work around the farm, and I could work for room and board, and the farmers are great. He was so nice, and he said absolutely, we do. We've got plenty of work around here, and he says, as a matter of fact, he says, you see that farm across the way over there? He says, yes, I do. It's also a beautiful farm. He says, yes, these are the nicest two farms in the area, and it's probably why you came here. He says, yes, you know, honestly saying, you're right. It is why I came here, because it's a beautiful farm, and I thought that you would have work here. And he says, you didn't go over there because you probably couldn't get over there. He says, you're right again. I couldn't get over there. He says, yeah, you couldn't get there because my brother, who we built our whole lives with. We built all of this for our families, and we got in an argument. And he took the same tractor that we built our whole lives with to drudge a ditch to separate our properties. He says, I'm going to ask you to build a fence so I'll never have to see his face or his place ever again. Now, the farmer had started off really, really nice, and obviously that this was a sore spot, and something that he was greatly offended by. And while he was thinking, this is, you know, this is not what I was expecting, he also needed a place to stay and food to eat. So he agreed. The next morning, the farmer got up, and he had that same sunny disposition he did when he first greeted the drifter at the door. And he told him that breakfast is already prepared. It's on the table. He says, if you want more, there's more in the fridge. He says, I've also prepared a little lunch in there. You'll see it off to the side. And he says, I'm going into town. I'll be back at the end of the day. And the drifter nodded. He says that there'll be all the supplies you'll need is right in the back. He says, there's a wood pile, and you'll see a tool shed. There'll be everything you need. Well, the drifter agreed, and the farmer went on into town. He came back at the end of the day. He hadn't expected to be there that long, but he found it almost therapeutic to kind of be out all day long and not working on the farm specifically. And when he got back, he heard hammering still going on in the backyard, and he's like, "My, this must be a really hard worker." And he says, I'll go put on some coffee, and I'll bring him on inside, tell him that's enough for the day. And he put on the coffee, and he went on out to receive him, and as he began to walk over towards the fence where he was, he saw this shadow coming towards him, and the walk eventually turned into a run. And the guy ran, and he threw his arms around him. He says, my brother, my brother. He says, I can't believe I was so myopic. I was so petty to take the same tractor that we built our whole lives with to drudge a ditch to separate our properties. And you, my brother, had the kindness, generosity to build a bridge so that we could have a relationship again. Well, Farmer was a little bit embarrassed because he knew that, well, that wasn't what he was trying to do. But it all seemed so trivial now. It didn't make sense. He just hugged his brother. But at some point, guilt overcame him. He knew that he had to go and thank the drifter. And so after he hugged his brother for a considerable amount of time, he says, hold on, I've got something to do. And he went and found the drifter. And men, we have trouble saying thank you. So he didn't say thank you, but what he said he thought was more valuable. He said, sir, I want you to know that you have a place to stay as long as you live. There's plenty of work to do here at this farm, and as long as you live, you'll always have a place. Well, the drifter said, I'm sorry, I've got to go. Feeling more guilty now. I says, what do you mean you have to go? You don't have any place to stay or food to eat. He says, well, I have to go. He says, well, why do you have to go? He says, what do you mean? He says, well, you see, sir, I have other bridges to build. The first, as we begin today, we want to protect our frontline workers. Secondly, we want to perfect. The only thing we can be perfect at is love, because love covers mistakes. Let's put people before us. Let's learn to do that during this time. When we slow down, often in times like this, it gives us a chance to do things differently. And I think we have been forced to slow down and look at things a little bit differently. But let's make sure that as we move forward into the new normal, that, well, we don't just revert back to the things we were challenged by before, but we learn something here and move forward. And probably the most important thing is just that, to, in a city that is so big and so vast and so busy, just to put people first. And finally, to connect, to build bridges, not fences, right? I think that should be our goal in life, right? Certainly for an athlete, it's been a big part of my life, is trying to build bridges, not fences. Not always successful, right? And but I think as a life's pursuit, building bridges, not fences, would be honorable, to say the least. I want to thank you for joining in and taking this time. And that now, I'm sorry for talking so long. I didn't mean to talk that long, but we want to get to the good part now. And the good part really is having some conversation with you and some feedback. And Jen, are we ready?
We're ready. I have a couple of questions, but first I wanted to just say that Jeff Smock from Dunedin said, thank you so much for your thoughtful reflection and perspective and positive message while the world lives and works through this crisis. So I asked him to stay on until the end so that you could see him. So he's listening. So just
all right. I went to school with Jeff.
Okay, so one question is, what is the new normal at the Clemons family? Give us a sneak peek of what's happening over there from your busy lifestyle before, where you're going from meeting to meeting, to now they have to put up with you every day.
Caviar. No. So our new normal is this. Our Riley, our youngest, right, is still in school. So she's got e-school. So she is generally the first one up. Well, the first one after me, right? And so she's the first one up and gets her done. But my Rachel is also, right, really busy because she is a journalism major and she's interning, and she's got quite a bit of work that she is working on now, and she loves it. It's a lot of work, but she loves it. So the two of them get up early, and my middle daughter, Raven, well, she actually goes to bed at that time, right? So she is up all night. She just graduated in business and law and is just a wonderful kid. And my bride generally takes a little bit of time in the morning because she serves us all day long. She's just amazing in her spirit and her desire to give and to do the things all day long. She makes sure that we're good, and so we usually give her the ability to sleep in because she served us all day long. And I'm on the phone all day, or a Zoom call, or yeah, that's generally how that happens. But we are spending more time together. It's really good in that respect. But everybody sort of has their little thing, their little role, and do their little thing, and then we come together when it's time to break bread, as we say.
Okay, great. So for everyone listening on the call, can you share a little bit about some of the things we've been doing with the youth besides the mentorship calls? So at the beginning, when the pandemic first hit, what was your favorite part about how everyone's come together, as a team? Because we've got quite a special thing going. They're not just calls. We've been sending out grocery gift cards, but what would you be your
that our team here is just brilliant. We are better together, and our team really right at the beginning of this said our young people are going to need support, and we have great donors who actually came to the table and asked us, hey, how are the kids doing? Is there a way that we can support? So we have gone out and reached out, and we tried to be responsible in working with the different groups. So some are actually in foster care, and others. Some are living on their own. Others are in a marginalized community, and still others are at a youth shelter, a homeless shelter. And so, coming from all of these groups and these young people needing multiple kinds of supports, we sent out a little sheet to kind of ask them where they were, what are the issues, what are the things they're going through, and so we didn't just hand out money, right? But we kind of found out where they are, and knew that, hey, this may be a way to help. And so for the shelter, we actually sent them money for food, because we know that many of the kids who are at the shelter can make sure that they already have shelter over their head, but the food was an additional challenge to happen in this way for the shelter itself. So we were able to support the shelter in that way. And so tried to figure out a unique way to make sure that we can help them all, including giving some kids who are out on their own gift cards directly. And then we asked them to share, right? What did you do in terms of going and buying food, right? Send us some screenshots. Let us know what you bought, and how do you make it through a period like this. So it was quite detailed in the approach and the way, but also very private in terms of our little team, our little huddle. And so there are young people who have gotten jobs through Kevin, and then our Paul is just such a wonderfully generous and unique man who not only coaches them on finances, but physically helps them through situations. His foundation gives aid in many different capacities that would include rent sometimes. And so we've tried to be very diligent and understand where the need is first. And what's been amazing is that the kids have not asked for extra. And I say kids, our young adults. They have not asked for more than they need. And we've asked many of them, and they say, no, I'm good right now. No, I'm good right now. No. And it's amazing, how, the young people are going through and thinking through the situations, and we have a tremendous team. I do need to kind of say out loud, you've seen Jen, but behind the scenes, we have Lady Jane, Queen Bee, and King Colin. So Colin does our social media. Jane works directly with our partners, and Queen Bee does everything else. She does marketing. She does, and partly responsible, I think, for getting this call together. So we have a tremendous team, a small but mighty team, and Jen is our illustrious leader. And so Jen, would you just, and I know we can't hear you because you're muted, but would you just give Jen and our whole team a big round of applause?
Thanks, Mike. The thing that I agree with you, the thing that I love the most about the kids was that they love our calls. They feel like they're part of the family, and they're inspiring us versus us inspiring them. So they're the ones that are now empowered with all these tools that, Kevin, Jonathan, and Paul, our three mentors, have given to them. So they've actually looked for jobs remotely. They're preparing their resume. They're exercising. And I'm like, man, I got to keep up with these guys. The youth are been pretty amazing, but I think it's just that connection, and, you said protect, perfect, and connect. I think just connecting with them every couple of days makes a big difference, and they look forward to the calls. So thank you for sharing that. One question came in. We appreciate your words of wisdom. How can we have the maximum impact to positively influence and impact those who need emotion and monetary help when we're locked away?
So I think when we speak to that directly, in terms of the foundation itself, we really focus on making sure that your dollars go directly to the youth we serve. Our board members actually pay for all of our admin, and so all of our admin is taken care of, and the dollars you donate will go directly to impact the young people that we serve. And so for me, if you ask me sort of what would I say in that respect is there are a lot of great places to give. We're not telling you that you have to give here, right? But you want to give in places where there's a direct impact, that the aid is getting directly to the front lines, to the people who need it most, and so that would be my great suggestion. As we move on, we don't know how long this is going to last, and much of our fundraising has been interrupted, and so we would be excited about anyone who would donate here, and we can get on a call with you, or get online and kind of talk about different places where you can and where the money goes, and that those dollars will go directly towards that specific thing.
Thanks, Mike. There's another question that's it's a little just to give an update to some donors, which I think is a great time to do it. The donor says, I have often heard you on Primetime Sports in the past and have donated to the building of the schools. And I was just wondering how that's going. So maybe just an update from our last trip to Kenya.
All right, our last trip to Kenya, we have built now a fully sustainable community in Kenya. So which means we provided clean water, agriculture or food security, access to a hospital. We've Jen, help me out. It's
education.
Of course, the schools. Yes. And so the education part and the final
alternative income.
Yes. So alternative income, so they have additional income opportunities. Those may be things like when we say maybe there may be bees, right? So they do honey. They have their own farming system. They also do beading and artwork that is sold back here in the Western world. And so a lot of interesting things that go on there, and that's a project we've been at for quite a few years, and we want to thank you so much for your support there. This year we will officially, so we started out saying that we started out building 2 schools, and we wanted to build 131 within 5 years. We did that in less than 5 years, and now at the end of this year we will build our 231st school. But that doesn't include the other projects that we've done, which include a couple of orphanages, water projects. This project specifically of adopting this community was $1 million commitment, of which our last installment in the 5 years is this coming year. So we've gone quite a ways, and excited to report that where our impact is, they haven't been affected by COVID at this time.
Okay, great. I have a couple of questions here. What was the last time you tried something for the first time, and what was it? And that's from Rob Richardson.
Oh my goodness, yes. So Rob Richardson is with our Toronto Argonauts, and Rob, as you know, I'm trying to be a GM for the first time, and I don't know how it's going to go. So we are excited about the opportunity and where it might go. But right now, we don't know exactly where it's going to go. So we're trying to do the diligent thing. We had about a 3-hour meeting this morning. We have another longer meeting on Thursday. And so we're working hard and doing those things and that we need to do to be successful. But I have a lot of things that I'd like to do. One of which is like if you kind of have that thing that is at the top of your list, that bucket list, it's actually being able to run a marathon. I don't think I have a I don't think I have a chance. That whole like when we ran 10 yards in football, they told me good job, that's a first down, and they celebrated. Then I went back to rest for 30 seconds, right? So I cannot imagine running 26.2 miles. That is on my bucket list. That is something that I'd like to do. But new things are I believe what keep us fresh, what keep us new, keep that edge, keep us living, so going out and trying new things. And this may be one of those times where we always say, if I had the time, I would. Well, we've got the time right now, and it really is about going out and being better than before. When we leave this pandemic and we resume what is the new normal, whatever that looks like, let's make sure, as much as is in our control, that we are better than we were when we went into this pandemic.
Okay. Then another question. I've had the opportunity to speak to groups, whether that has been students, groups of individuals, etc. I've seen you speak to athletes in the Special Olympics organization, and I know the athletes have left motivated after hearing you speak. Who would you say is someone who motivates you?
Woo! Well, she's sitting right beside me. Yeah. So my bride motivates me, but I have to say, if I can go back more sentimentally, my mom is my hero. She was a single parent, and at first we grew up in the projects, but she worked really hard. She was 18 when she had me. Her mom died at 5. Her grandmother died at 7. So she was raised by her great grandmother, my great great grandmother, who went blind around the time she was born. But she didn't make excuses. She knew excuses are just like belly buttons. Everyone's got one, and none of them are any good, guys. So don't make excuses. So instead of making excuses, she got on with things, and I was always good at sports, but she prioritized education, and I couldn't make us. If I got a C, I couldn't play sports, and a C was a 75 to 84, as Jeff Smock would actually remember when we were growing up, and so my marks had to be 85 or above, and she didn't say that was because she was strict or mean or anything like that. She said that because she believed in me more than I believed in myself, and so when I talk about people who inspire me, a lot of times we think of inspiration is someone who comes and offers a few words of inspiration and gets you excited. A lot of times when you come all excited and you're rah-rah and you leave 30 minutes later, the people you're addressing are going back to the same condition. And many times that condition isn't favorable. My inspiration actually comes from someone who wasn't rah-rah so much as very diligent, very practical, at times stern, right? But saw the best in me, wanted the best for me, sacrificed everything she could so that I could achieve the things that I wanted to achieve.